everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do about a 15-minute shoulder activation and shoulder mobility workout. Now this workout's going to be really effective if you're somebody who has rounded shoulders, you have tight, achy, weak shoulders, and you're not exactly sure why you do all the stretching and the foam rolling in the world and it doesn't make it better. The reason that all the stretching and the foam rolling isn't getting you as far as you want to go is because you aren't working on those tiny shoulder stabilizer muscles that will support you as you stay upright. The stretching and the foam rolling can be good, but they're going to not get you as far as you can go without that final strengthening step. Now, today's workout will all be body weight based. It will mostly be lying on a mat, but there are a few things for you to keep in mind form-wise as we go through this. The first thing you need to remember is that you have to maintain a really good rib to hip connection. That means if you put your fingers on your hips and your thumbs at the bottom of your rib cage, you have to imagine you're tucking your ribs into your hips. And while doing that, you're gonna pin your back flat on the mat. The second thing for you to remember is to not let your shoulder blades come off the mat. So while you're doing exercises on one side of your body, you might be tempted to let the other one rotate like this. That is wrong. You wanna pin those shoulder blades to the floor. A lot of these movements are going to be really tiny ranges of motion that if you're not doing them consciously might seem like really easy or boring or ineffective, but if you're doing them with proper form and really focusing on that rib to hip connection, pinning those shoulder blades to the floor, and also maintaining proper alignment so your nose and your belly button should be in a straight line. You're not letting yourself rotate, and by doing so, you're keeping everything on the mat like it's supposed to be. So for today's workout, it's body weight based, but there are a little bit of props. I'd really recommend having an exercise mat, and I'd also recommend having something like a foam roller. We're not going to be foam rolling, but we are going to use this as a way to elevate our arms, like so, and we're going to be able to use it to roll out in different directions, so we can really make sure we keep our shoulder blades in the right position, and also really make sure the range of motion is as effective as it can be. I also have something to prop up your shoulder on. I'm using this like spiky ball, but you can use literally anything, like a book, a block, a towel, dealer's choice. You just need to be able to prop your elbow up. This workout's gonna be 30 seconds on, 10 seconds rest. And I didn't include a warm up or a cool down, so be sure to get those in on your own. Some shoulder stretching might be really helpful. I will link my 10-minute shoulder stretch video in the description. All right, that's it everybody. I'll see you on the mat. Okay, so our first exercise is going to be shoulder retraction on the floor. I'm going to get my timer started. And so we're gonna lie flat on the mat. We are going to practice one. We're gonna practice our rib to hip connection. And once our back is flat on the mat, we're going to have our palms facing upward. We're going to draw our shoulder blades down our back and together. And we're gonna do this without letting that lower back arch. We're gonna do this without letting our lower back arch. So we're going to draw. So once you do this once, you're gonna hold it for a few seconds and then let it release. All right, so that was our first interval right there. Now for the next, so we're gonna do this 3 times through. So, all right, we're gonna start right now. So we're gonna keep our lower back pinned on the mat and we're going to draw those shoulder blades down our back and together. While we're doing this, we're not letting our shoulder blades come off the mat as well. We're keeping them pinned down to the mat. Now this may seem like kind of boring, but what this is gonna do is going to set us up for success throughout this workout because we're gonna be replicating this position. So you're really just gonna be fighting your body's natural inclination to round and to rotate here. All right, so if this is a bit much for you, there's a few things you can do to modify as well. So first thing you can do is just practice that rib to hip connection, get that back pinned down to the mat, and then lower your shoulder blades down and together. You can kind of practice doing this one at a time. So just practice holding, and then arch, and then pin your back down and together. You don't want to let your shoulders rotate off the mat. 2, 1. All right, we did our first exercise. So our next one is going to be a flasher. So this we're gonna need our foam roller for. So we're gonna get back into that good rib to hip connection. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our arms at 90 degrees. We're gonna put it on the foam roller and we're gonna rotate outward without letting our back arch or letting our shoulder blades on either side come off the mat. So what you're doing here is you're working on that external rotation of your shoulder blade. You wanna drive your wrist into that foam roller and not let that lower back arch. One. So so while you're doing this exercise, the non-rolling side is working really hard to keep you in alignment. So your non-rolling shoulder should be staying at 90 degrees and that side should be countering a natural inclination to go like this. So it's fighting that rotation. So you're gonna be working those external rotators and also working on some anti-rotation stuff as well. So we're driving it into the mat. We're keeping our elbow low too as well. We're not letting that pop off because if you do that, your shoulder comes off the mat. So you're keeping it low and you're trying to do that rotation. All right, so we got one more on this side. We're gonna do this on each side, so don't worry about switching sides. All right, last one. Drive that elbow down. Keep that rib to hip connection. Don't let that other hip try to pop off the mat either. That's gonna also help with the core work to keep your shoulders stable. Now your shoulders should ideally sit on top of your rib cage. And this exercise will do a lot to help keep it in that position because you're also training your core on how to do this as well. All right, so we got a little bit more time left on this side. I hope you can feel your shoulders really working because I can feel mine. All right, so we're gonna switch sides. I'm gonna move around so you can actually see this on the mat. All right, so we're going to rib tip connection. We're going to drive our wrist into that foam roller and we're gonna rotate outward. We're gonna rotate outward. Let me move over a bit so you can see the foam roller a bit more. Now one side might be weaker than the other. This is my weaker side, so I know I have to work extra hard to keep myself in alignment and to not let that shoulder pop. So your shoulders should not come off the mat. When they come off the mat, they stop working. All right, round two. And we're just gonna keep our arm at that 90-degree angle. We're not gonna let our elbow pop up and we're gonna drive that wrist into the foam roller. You're not gonna let that lower back arch. We're not gonna let that other hip try to come off the mat. And you should feel something on that opposite side working to keep you in the right position and keep that stability. It's not popping off the mat to make this work easier.
3, 2, 1, rest.
All right, so last one on the side. I'm gonna keep that foam roller in a straight line as well. And we're gonna keep that elbow down, keep driving that wrist into that foam roller. We're keeping that other side at 90 degrees as well. We wanna keep that good goalpost position as well. We're also training our abs on how to work properly with our shoulders so we stay in proper alignment. Now, if you're really adventurous, you could do this without the foam roller, but I cannot do this correctly without the foam roller driving both my wrist and my elbow into the mat without letting my shoulders come off the mat. So, all right, next we're going to do the wave goodbye. I'm gonna get back on my other side. We're going to need whatever we're using to elevate our shoulder for this one. So we're gonna still lay on our back, keep our good rib tip connection. We're gonna keep our arms at goalpost position 90 degrees. Let me move ever so slightly so you can make sure you see me. We're going to drive that elbow into whatever's propping it up. We're going to, don't do that. And we're going to, you know what? You're being a piece of work today. And we're going to drive our wrist into the ground. So we're not gonna move our elbow. We're not gonna let our shoulder come off the mat. We're not gonna arch our back. And we're gonna drive our wrist into the ground. I'm gonna work through the break here because the ball was not cooperating with me. All right. Underneath our elbow, we're gonna drive the wrist into the ground like we're mad. So this is a progression from the flasher exercise. So if this is a little much or this isn't making sense, go back to the flasher. This workout is one giant progression. So if one thing isn't working, go back to the other. We're not letting the shoulder blade come off the mat here. Now this is difficult for me because I have limited external rotation. I definitely could not do this without my little spiky friend here. All right, one more on this side. All right, so we got one more left on this side. Apologies for the ball not behaving. 2, 1. And just like with the flasher exercise, your other side is working here to keep you in a straight line. It's not letting you other side rotate or tip over. Watch that opposite hip. Those opposite abs should be working as well. And your other arm, I know you can't like see it the best here, is also still at that 90-degree goalpost position. Ball is not my friend today. Is the ball being your friend? I'm doing this on hardwood floors, so I'm definitely trying to keep it on my mat and not on the hardwood floor. So I'm gonna move my mat just a little, so hopefully it's my friend this time. All right, so back pin to the mat, shoulders pin to the mat, and then elbow underneath your ball and drive that wrist into the ground. This is my weaker side, and so it's always a little bit more difficult for me. I'm still keeping my bat on the mat. I'm not letting that other side cheat, and I'm driving that wrist into the ground. Now you're not driving your knuckles into the ground, you're driving your wrist into the ground. So this is my weaker side. I have to remind myself to do that. Now you should feel your chest working here. You should feel your shoulders working here, not your chest. So if you have rounded shoulders, you probably have an overactive pec minor and overactive lats. You should really, if you're really focusing on pinning those shoulders to the mat, you shouldn't feel it in your chest or your lats. You should really try to feel it in those shoulders. Now you want to make sure you're going slowly and controlled here as well with all of these exercises. Because if you're not, you're just kind of going like this, and I guarantee you if you try that, it's going to feel really different. All right, so we got a few. All right. Last one. All right, so not moving that elbow, not letting that shoulder come off, driving that wrist into the ground. If your elbow's moving, you're cheating. So that's your end range of motion. If you need something to further prop up your elbow, or your wrist, add that as well. Everything's in a straight line. You're keeping your other side at 90 degrees. I can feel my other abs working to keep my body in alignment. All right, so now now we're gonna use our foam roller again. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it above our head. We're gonna roll it out ever so slightly, and we're going to press our thumbs down into it. We're not gonna let our elbows flare, so we're not gonna let it go like this. We're gonna keep them in a straight line. We're gonna press our thumbs down into it with our arms over our head, and keeping that back and those shoulder blades pinned to the mat. So if you need to take a break, but get back here. All of my objects are not playing well with me today. So we're just gonna press down into that mat. You should really feel it kind of along the sides of your shoulders. We're beginning to start to activate that serratus anterior, which does a lot to keep your shoulder blades in alignment. All right, so we're pressing. You're gonna press as long as you can maintain good form. So this is a kind of called an isometric exercise, and that basically means holding. And when we're holding, we're doing a lot to focus on body control and stabilization and all of that fun stuff that you don't necessarily get if you're moving something. So we're gonna keep pressing. We're gonna try to get our elbows in the same kind of place as well. I can't do that perfectly because I've had some injuries over the years, but try to keep them pointed, like if you imagine like a straight line pointing out of them, the line is pointing in the same place or as close to it as you can get. So keeping our back pinned to the mat, keeping our nose in line with our belly button, and we're pressing into that foam roller. So I felt this shoulder try to come off right there, so just really try to press. It's the weaker side that's going to give you the most trouble with keeping your shoulder blades on the ground. All right, last one. This might feel a little awkward, but we're really kind of focusing on getting that extension over our head and focusing on holding a position rather than moving. If your shoulders are kind of hunched, you'll notice that like you don't do a lot of like raising your hands or getting your hands above your head. And the more we can kind of work on corrective exercises that get our hands above our head, the better off we're going to be. All right, so we're pressing. Right, this is our last one of these, so keep pressing as hard as you can into that foam roller. I can really feel my weaker shoulder screaming at me right now, so I hope you can too. All right, that was our third one of these. All right, so we're gonna move into our next exercise, which is gonna be a serratus anterior activation. So again, we're gonna be lying on the mat, we're maintaining that good rib to hip connection. We're gonna make a fist, 2 thumbs up. We're gonna pin our back onto our mat, and we're gonna raise our arms above our head without letting our shoulders come off the mat. Now, if you get to like here and your shoulders come off the mat, stop. That's your end range of motion. So you're only gonna go as far as your shoulders will let you. This is getting a little hard here, still barely doing it and bringing it down. I can really feel my body, like I'm gonna do one more here, resisting gravity here, and I hope you can too. So this exercise is going to activate our serratus anterior, which helps keep our shoulders in proper alignment and gets really underactive through activities of daily life, particularly like sitting and hunching at a computer. And okay, that was a little weak for me. Now we're going to keep going. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because I felt my right shoulder come off the mat, but we're still going to keep doing the serratus anterior activation as far as we can. Now, whenever we do exercises like this, you might have tried to do this against a wall where we're like raising our hands, but when a lot of people do that, their back comes off the mat. You could see that happen with me too. So you want to only go as far as your range of motion can let you. If it's only here, all good. Just keep going as far as the forearm will let you, because once your back starts arching off the mat, you're not working your shoulders anymore and you're not getting the benefit of the exercise. So it's really about very diligently watching your form. You want to make this harder? Put your thumbs out to the side. You'll really get into that external rotation if you do that. All right. All right, so we're on to our last exercise, and this is going to be a scapular push up. So we're going to get in our good all fours position, and we're going to lower our torso without moving our arms. So we're going to be really working on serratus anterior, which we just activated. You're going to be lowering and your arms don't move. This isn't a giant range of motion, but you're working those side muscles along your back really hard here. Not a giant range of motion, but your back should be screaming at you. Now, if that was a little awkward, you can practice doing it this way. Hands and press. Imagine you're pressing an imaginary wall away from you right there. So we're on the floor, we're really trying to resist the force of the ground. Your hands are doing a lot to resist that ground force. So you're lowering and down. Your arms don't move. Your arms aren't moving. You want to maintain that good rib tip connection. Just kind of caught my back arching there because my shoulders are screaming at me at this point. 2, 1. So again, from the side, in case that makes more sense, you're doing this. Very tiny range of motion, but very effective range of motion. Alrighty. All right. Lower and down. Lower and down. All right, we're halfway through our last interval, guys. You can do this. If you just want to hold, practice pushing the ground away, that's all good too. All right, my form's starting to go, so if you want to do better than me, be my guest. All right, that was our last exercise. Great job, everyone. You did it. Workout complete. So the way you can think about using this workout is it's a very good corrective exercise for your shoulders. So if you have weak shoulders, achy shoulders, you have no idea what your shoulders are doing, really, really good. I'm using this as an active recovery day. My shoulders are the weakest part of my body. I spent a lot of time watching over the computer, so I'm trying to do this to get my shoulders in the right position. If you're a beginner, this is really good for you to understand how to get your shoulders in the right position and how to know what it feels like when they're activated and actually sitting properly on top of your rib cage. You can do this as active recovery. You can do this as a standalone shoulder workout. You can kind of use this as an add-on for maybe another upper body or ab workout. There's a lot of different ways you can use this. If you're feeling really adventurous and you have freakishly strong shoulders, you can definitely use this again. This is appropriate from beginner to intermediate to advanced. It's pretty scalable as well. If you really reach a point where you have like amazing shoulders, like way better than mine, you don't have to use the foam roller or this guy, but you can really practice pinning those shoulder blades onto the mat. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to drop me a comment. Let me know what your favorite exercise was. Let me know how your shoulders feel with all of this. I'm excited to hear. And remember to always like, comment, subscribe so you can see more from this channel. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much.